Welcome to the Time to Grow podcast. We take you behind the scenes of the rapidly growing natural products industry. Join Kyle on his journey as he chats with retail buyers, founders, entrepreneurs, investors, mentors, and so much more. This is Time to Grow. And here's your host, Kyle Marsham.
Welcome back to the Time to Grow podcast, where we share inspiring and insightful stories from across the CPG industry. Today, we have a very, very, very special guest with us. She's been with Sobeys since the 90s. She spent her entire career at Sobeys, and today she's in charge of the local business development program, where she helps countless emerging brands get their chance at retail. In 2021, she was awarded the Star Women in Grocery Award. She is truly sensational and is helping so many people in this industry. Today, I'm honored to welcome Sheri Evans to the Time to Grow podcast.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here and talk about what we're doing and where we're going, and helping these entrepreneurs get through the CPG business is challenging, and any advice they can get, it's perfect to do this.
It is. I have a few stories from aspiring CPG entrepreneurs where they've made mistakes, but they don't know what they don't know, right? So they jump into it. They have an incredible product. They've designed beautiful packaging. They have a strong social presence, and then they get into retail, or they try to, and they're hit with obstacle after obstacle, right? And then they seem to fall into your hands, and then you really help guide. You've guided a lot of young CPG aspiring entrepreneurs. So where did that passion come from to help?
I've always worked in the grocery industry, obviously. I have the retail background and then also the product side of it. So I was always I loved being creative and building displays and watching brands grow. In my last role as a specialist, we worked with a few local suppliers that category would bring in, but there really wasn't that nurturing side of it. So it was really on us to introduce it to the store and sort of help it grow. So I think that's kind of where it started. Becoming local development manager sort of fell in my lap. It was part of our restructuring at Sobeys, and this position was offered to me, and it sounded very interesting. Went in blindly. We had no clue what the role really was, what we would be doing. And in the last 5 years, I believe we're in 6 now, it has evolved and grown and changed, and it's incredible to see where we started with local to where we are now, and I'm super excited to see where we can go in the next 5 years with it.
So was there a discussion, or I guess you guys identified a gap in the market where there was help needed, right? So did you basically develop the program and develop the communication between stores, and how you were going to communicate with these brands? It
kind of was. There's 5 of us right across the country. We each have our own provinces we're accountable for. Mm-hmm. So we really did. We had our VP, we had our director, and then the 5 of us. And we really built this program from the ground up. It was new for Sobeys. I believe there were other banners kind of doing that, but it was more their category managers were taking these products on. So it was really missing the nurturing side of it and being able to spend time with the entrepreneur to help them grow. Because you can't just simply say, okay, you're listed, go. Mm-hmm. You're not setting them up for success. So our biggest thing was, if we're bringing entrepreneurs in, we want to set them up for success. We don't want them to fail. So that gave us that outlet where we could sort of design and develop. This is a great process to do. We can get them listed the same as we would a national item. We get them into our system. We can offer them promotions. We can offer them in flyer. We've got digital flyer, all sorts of different ways we can highlight and promote, and then communicating it out to the stores to make sure it's relevant for their consumers, relevant for their store. And they get to pick what local items they want to carry, which is also the highlight, because sometimes we focus on that hyper local, which is like very close to the store, but there's some other brands that are maybe 200 kilometers away that are huge that store can sell. So that way they have that outlet to be able to bring that product in and sell it as well.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. Is there, so there's a tremendous amount of collaboration between each province?
Yes, we work closely together. We share brands that are working, brands that aren't working, ideas on what we can do to grow it. So recently I did for Local Food Week, a breakfast at our office.
Mm-hmm.
So I had 11 suppliers come in that were relevant to breakfast items. They brought it in, they cooked for our entire backstage team. It was a huge hit. It was a little more popular than I thought it was going to be. So it was very busy 4 hours for the entrepreneurs. Out west, they did a great event in the parking lot. I think he had 43 suppliers set up.
Wow.
And did a huge tasting event. So we all kind of play off each other's ideas and make it relevant for our own province. So it's pretty cool that we can do that and highlight and showcase.
How does the initial conversation go with the brands? Because I can only imagine if I'm a new CPG founder with my product and I get a call or email or a DM from you, it's like they're probably so excited, nervous, like they think they're launching at Sobeys at the time, and there's a lot of what goes into that, and is it exciting to be on that end of it?
It's usually a lot of nervousness coming from their end until we actually meet and have that initial conversation, and we can sort of calm it down. Some people come in way over prepared, which is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Some come in under prepared, which also is amazing because that gives us the ability to sort of help guide them a little bit more on what we're looking for. It's just, it's a process for sure. Some are ready. I have suppliers that I've been working with for 2 years and we're still in conversation stages. We haven't gotten past that. And there's no harm in that because it's always best to do it the right way to start instead of trying to launch something too quickly when you're not ready and sort of watching it fail and just drop off.
What are some of those things that a brand needs to understand in order to get to retail? Because there's probably a million things, or there is a million things. And what are those? What are those things?
I think the key things would be understanding what your capacity is, knowing your limits, and not pushing yourself too far past what you're ready for. Having your articles or UPC codes registered in GS1 is a huge understanding. Yes, there is a huge cost to that. There's a lot of small business packages that they offer now, which is amazing for these entrepreneurs.
It's a complicated process, GS1.
It is a complicated process.
I've been involved with it a few times, but it's necessary.
But they have a great toolkit now, and they have support. I think they've recognized that it was very challenging for people to navigate, so I think they've gotten a lot better and grown with that as well. We are looking at hosting a few seminars with GS1 for entrepreneurs on how you can get through the process a little simpler and at what level you need to be at with what you're registering. But it is key because it eliminates any errors once you're in the system. It just makes things smoother. And then I think understanding the distribution side of it and what a distributor and what a broker can do for you. There are always going to be costs to it, but I think those costs are very good investments because if you want to launch out in 5 stores, okay, you could do that yourself. You can deliver DSD, that is not an issue. But if your growth plan is like 1, 3, and 5 year to grow out, adding 60, 50 stores each time, and then expand right across the province, and then hopefully within 5 years hit a national level, you need to have a distributor in place because your costs are going to change. And if you don't have that distributor in place from start, understand what those costs look like so that at least you can go in with that right costing to begin with so that things don't change. Because the worst thing you can do is change costs because that just affects your retail, that affects stores, it affects consumers that have been loyal. You want to make sure that you're sort of stagnant with that if you can be.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest value adds for Marsham on the brokership side is building up that value chain and really
Absolutely.
Understanding where you're adding certain things in, where it's on the top or below. And sometimes it's start at the retail price and work backwards because if it's going to be way out of whack in the category, you're going to lose anyways.
Yeah, it's not going to go anywhere. It's going to sit on the shelf.
Exactly. What type of criteria goes into finding a brand? Is it simply, obviously, first criteria is it's got to be Canadian.
Yes.
Does it have to be Ontario for yours?
For me, it has to be Ontario. So we follow the CFIA definition, produced, manufactured within the province or 50 kilometers outside of those provincial borders. So we can sometimes squeak in a few Quebec brands, but it is very challenging that way because, it's hard to hit that 50 kilometers dead on. But yeah, Ontario-based, we have some businesses that obviously they bring their ingredients in, but it's still produced and manufactured here, so it does fall under that local flag.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I think you're doing a lot for the industry and for Ontario. So thank you for what you do.
No problem. It's fun.
Going back to your early days at Sobeys, right? Your whole career's been at Sobeys.
It has.
Right?
It
What
has.
inspired you to continue to grow in grocery?
Well, I think the first was I was in school for dental assisting. I was a certified dental assistant, and I quickly realized that it's not that fun looking in people's mouths all day. So, fortunately, I had kept my job at Sobeys just sort of as a backup, pay up some debts, get things going, and then it sort of evolved as any, like all the stages I hit in my life, there was always an opportunity. So after I had my kids, I was like, okay, I don't want to be a part-time cashier anymore. I don't want to be part-time bakery. It got offered to go full-time in grocery. So I kind of evolved from there. And then once that hit, I kind of moved into grocery manager and then file maintenance. And I shadowed a lot of great mentors through my career that really helped shape where I got to today. It's funny, my VP right now, I've worked with him part-time. We started together at the Sobeys store in Grimsby.
Really? Wow.
And we have always, we've come apart, like we've all worked in different fields, but we always seem to come back together. And it's funny, every time one of us changes or something happens, it's like, I'll see you in a year as we work together again. Yeah. So it is kind of cool. And I think that's sort of how it shaped into maybe my passion for grocery. I like food. Who doesn't like food?
Who doesn't?
And I think working with local really gives me a different perspective on, some of the challenges with sourcing and different options that are out there. And it's different and unique that you don't see in a typical grocery store. You actually have to go out to a market or a boutique store to find those items. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of cool to be able to bring those items to life in our retail environment.
What are some of the coolest ones you've found?
Oh, that's a hard one. I would make a lot of brands unhappy if I didn't say their brand.
I'll leave it alone. So in the early days, you worked almost in every department, and you really learned, because each department kind of has different merchandising requirements, different pricing standards, different ways of operating. Is there any department that you enjoy more than another?
Oh, grocery would have been my favorite.
Yeah.
It definitely allowed for the most creativity and building displays, and I was always, I'm very short. So I was always the one that would build the big massive displays, and people like, you're climbing a ladder to build this. I'm like, yes, I am. I will do this. It was always showcasing, I think, more about what women could do in that role, because there weren't a lot of female grocery managers. So that was also very cool to be one of the first female grocery managers out there and building these big massive displays and, getting that recognition. As much as I say I don't like the recognition, I guess I kind of do, because I was always doing it. But it built sales, it built growth in the store, and that was always my goal.
Well, I'm sure that's a huge reason why you continue to be promoted to. What were your other roles within Sobeys?
Grocery manager, grocery specialist. That was on the road. I traveled from North Bay right through to Niagara. So I had GTA, and then I also had the Niagara district. So I go in and sort of help the grocery managers build their labor model, help them with scheduling, help them with merchandising, just give them general overall business advice on how to get their department to that top-notch level. And it was great because you really did in that role. I got to work with every store right across Ontario. So it's definitely interesting to see, and you learn a lot because those grocery managers had a lot of information and knowledge that I picked up from them that I didn't even know was missing from my tool belt. So it's pretty cool to be able to take things from one area into another and apply it, which in turn gets applied to this role because I have that operation side. So I understand their struggles and what they're doing. So I can really give very good guidance and sound guidance to the entrepreneurs on how to approach the stores because every store is different.
Yeah, I would say that's one of the biggest obstacles across grocery in general is in-store execution is tough.
It's very
right?
tough.
And
it's very tough.
every store has their own complexities. They're doing a lot. It's fast-paced.
Yes.
Right? And I think understanding that is, there should be like an educational program just to understand merchandising and in-store execution and all of the above.
Absolutely.
Right? And then you can get into pricing and all the other economics of CPG.
Yeah. It's the merchandising and the marketing side of it, I think, that are the biggest, and understanding the struggles in store about limitations because they don't have a lot of flex space. So local is extremely important. It's one of our key pillars for our business. But the stores have that flexibility of determining what goes into their store and where it goes. So it really becomes that extra addition, impulse item almost. We have those impulse purchases, but it's an impulse item for the store to bring in and merchandise.
So I'm a local supplier. I've just partnered with Sheri Evans. You've listed my product. How do I ensure it gets on shelf? Do I have to go to all of those stores? I got to be a good salesman, my social strategies. I got to take that guy out for dinner or be his best friend or girl, whatever. How does that work?
It really is about that relationship building between supplier and store. I can get that relationship with a supplier, no problem. But I think from a store's perspective, they need to understand why they should bring it in and what they're doing. So yes, to your point, it is a door-to-door. You're going to each store and saying, hey, this is now available. Here's my sell sheet. Do you want to bring my product in, or can I give you samples? We don't promote the taking out for dinner part of it. That is definitely.
I'm joking. I know that's definitely.
I know,
it's a big
definitely goes over the line.
Yeah.
But definitely going in and having those conversations with the store is huge, right? It's important to have that. Doing demos in the stores. It really is about getting that connection yourself. I can say every one of my products that I've listed are amazing, and I think they are.
Yeah.
They do. They check all the boxes, but the store needs to buy into it as well. And that really becomes the entrepreneur's role, is building that relationship.
It's almost like their initiation, right? It's like, here, I'm doing all this work for you. I'm getting you listed. I'm going to communicate to the stores that your product's available, but you got to go do the work.
Yep,
right?
exactly.
You got to go sell to them and turn them into a consumer as much as you've turned me, right?
Yes,
And
and
it's
then
not
once
easy.
you get the store to be the consumer, now you have the other struggle of getting the consumers to be the consumers.
Yeah. Yeah, and
It really is
costly.
It's a threefold.
Right, it's cost in your time. You have to be dedicated to it, right? Is that maybe a
Absolutely.
criteria you find? Because sometimes early stage, they're working a full-time job, right? And then they're launching this brand, right? Do you look at commitment level in terms of determining sometimes?
I do look at commitment level. You can usually tell in early conversations with a supplier where their commitment lies.
Yeah.
How much time they have to dedicate to this, and their energy level. That really, it does really negate whether they're going to be successful or not, because you can't just simply put your product in the store and let it sit there.
Mm-hmm.
There is that work behind it. The ones that have those full-time jobs completely understand that is key. They still need finances coming in to live. But that's where brokers and distributors can also come into play and sort of help guide them and get them into more stores, and then eventually their goal would be to quit that full-time 9-to-5 job and become full-time entrepreneur, which is 24/7.
Yeah, exactly. Do you have any examples of brands that have gone through the local program and then launched nationally with great success?
I do. I think right now I have 15 brands that have gone national, which is incredible.
Mm-hmm.
I think one that stands out truly would be Nuts for Cheese. Margaret Coons is, top notch on diversity, equity, and inclusion within her brand. Just always staying ahead of what needs to be done and understanding the business. And it really has helped her grow. I think when I first met her, she was in a small little unit, has quickly expanded and grown in those 5 years, and now has a national deal. I believe we are in our 3rd year national with her.
That's incredible.
So it's amazing to watch that sort of evolution of the supplier too. And I just saw on LinkedIn she had posted that she got her VRC. So she just doesn't stop. She just keeps going. And those brands that do that are the successful ones that keep pushing forward no matter what. You look at a brand like Nana Shake. They started with these bowls and they were very good. Then they evolved to Nana Pops 2.0, which were incredible. And this year at CHFA, they're launching their Nana Pops 3.0.
Popsicle on a stick, or
a smoothie
on a stick.
Right? Like everybody remembers that catchphrase. Yeah. So it's brands like that always continue to grow, develop, innovate, that will be successful because they're always staying ahead of trends or what consumers want. And they're following the consumer data. They're following what their consumers are asking for and what they're buying. And that's how they sort of rebuild, rebrand, and grow that way.
Yeah, 2 incredible brands too, and incredible people. I think that is a huge piece of it, right? Margaret is an incredible person.
Absolutely.
She's so lovely to speak with. She's an inspiring person across all levels, right?
I want her energy though.
I know, right? She's so positive.
She's everywhere doing everything.
She is.
Yeah.
She's actually on the podcast, I think, in November, right? Yeah. And so is Nana Shake. Both of them are coming on in November, so they're both coming on. So look at that. That worked out really well. That was not planned.
Into their intros.
Is there specific criteria to when they get the opportunity to go national? Is it purely volume or velocity, or is it gut feeling a little bit?
It has to be. Well, I mean, the velocity has to be there for sure. But it also has a lot to do with what is going on in that category. Because if you look at the ice cream category, it is dominated by Nestle.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's just general common knowledge. So to get into that sort of set nationally it is challenging. You have to have a standout product. There has to be unique features that are not offered within that sort of Nestle mix because they're paying the big bucks. It is that it's certain categories have more space to bring in local.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot of factors that go into play. It's a lot of collaboration between myself and our national team as well, as to what their future plans are.
Timing.
What does the set look like? What is the timing?
Yeah, 100%.
So again, these are, as we're still developing and modifying our local program, these are all things that we're trying to nail down the proper processes on how we do this, because we do have a lot of brands that have the ability to go national. They have the desire and dedication to do it and capacity. It's just getting in front of that category manager to say, okay, when is the right time for this brand? Like, what do we have coming out? What's new and exciting from those national brands that are different from what we're offering? Because maybe it's time that we bring in the local to see how it works.
Would they go from your local program to, I guess they couldn't go to the other province's local program because then it doesn't hit the criteria.
No, they can't,
okay.
Yeah. So we do have some brands that overlap in provinces. Wakewater is a great example. They've got production facility in BC, and then they also have Ontario.
He was on the podcast too. You just keep calling him out.
They're in both of our programs.
Yeah.
And then we have some brands that are in different provinces that are outside of Ontario. We don't flag them as local, but they're key to that market. So whether it's like kosher or, there's all different ways we work with brands to sort of give them that exposure. But once they go national right across the country, they really do then work with the national category manager.
So you hand them off?
I hand them off, which is very sad, but very exciting.
Yeah, 100%.
So
it's exciting.
Yeah.
What role does kind of social media and omni-channel play into your early discussions? Is it on the list of, hey, you guys, like, what are you doing for your brand outside of Sobeys to promote it? What role does social play?
Social plays a huge role. I think even before trying to get into a retail environment, you need to have your social side nailed down, have a really good website, have that direction and that brand awareness. And then obviously once you're in a retailer, every retailer is going to want you to promote your product in their stores. That is how you're going to drive your consumer into that location to buy it. It is huge. We have a lot of posts going out. We started the hashtag Sobeys Look for Local back in 2019. And it has, I think we have over 2 million posts with that hashtag now. It's
incredible.
Insane how many of our brands do post regularly, and that is also another way that you gain consumers, or you gain recognition from other retailers. It kind of works twofold. It just depends on how much time you can dedicate to social, because it can't just be a stagnant post, right? Now there's TikTok, there's Instagram, there's Snapchat they're using. I still don't get that one, but the TikTok videos I find are a huge driver, because I'm even being influenced by TikTok videos. So, and it's easy once you're on TikTok, you can scroll for hours.
Yeah.
It's
Literally.
dangerous.
Like, I should go to bed now.
But yeah, I used to get the little pop-ups on there that say, you've been scrolling for 2 hours, you might want to shut. I don't get those anymore. I wish I did. But I think that side of social media is putting yourself out there in front of your consumers, showing them everything, like show them the production, show them a blip of what your day looks like, because people probably have an idea of what an entrepreneur's life is like, and they think it's
the opposite.
Yeah, it's going to be the opposite of what we all think it is. So show people what it's like, right? Like, I think if you look at a brand like Brodo, Erica has put herself out there 100%. Like, she is fully transparent about the struggles she's gone through as an entrepreneur, changing her product line completely over. Like, those are things people see and can relate to, and then remember your brand, and then when they're out in the stores, they go buy it.
Yeah, there's a level of authenticity that's
absolutely
required,
and that's important, right?
We from the retail side of it, right? We think at Green Fresh, in the marketing arm of Marsham, we developed a little bit of a strategy to make it easier just around social in the retail environment. So we have a little rule, we call it, RTC, DSP, and PFC. So product front and center always. Yeah. So make sure the consumer, when they're absorbing your content, it's not the products in the feature or the mascot or whatever. I think Nanopops does a really good job of having their
little mascot all the time.
It's so memorable, and creating memorability is super important. Right? And then describe the product. That's the rule number 2. Describe the product, why, how it's differentiated in the category, why I should pick it up for the first time. Because for the most part, the brands you're dealing with are higher price point, right? They have a lot of differentiating attributes, right? There's so many check marks. And then the other one is connect with the retailer. Retail call it, right? Absolutely. Show a consumer where to buy it, how to buy it, what category it's in. If it's on special, call it out. If there's a coupon, highlight it. Yeah. Right, so we try to, with the brands we work with, try to follow that 3-step rule when you're creating content, and then if you layer in authenticity on top of it and behind the scenes, you have this virality ability. Yeah. Right, so it's, but I think a lot of the brands you mentioned are doing a great job, and it's because Erica's a perfect example. She's put the, what's the concept? She's dropped the veil on and put herself out there in a really vulnerable state.
Absolutely.
Right? And it's benefited her. And one thing I spoke with her maybe one of the last trade shows, and the people that she's met because of it.
Absolutely.
Right? So now from a professional perspective,
Yeah.
It's given her credibility and helped her network and helped her business grow outside of
Absolutely.
social, right? So that's a big
Yes.
piece of it. And then LinkedIn, right? So
Yeah. I use her as if anybody asks me about social media, I'm like, oh, you need to talk to Erica from Brodo. She's a genius at social media. So I just send them her way. And I mean, that's the thing, right? There's a lot of entrepreneurs out there, but it's also a very small circle.
Mhm.
They all know each other and they're all willing to help each other out. So it is kind of nice that way.
Yeah, you're like an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
You work at Sobeys and you launched the local program. You're an entrepreneur.
I'm going to change my job title.
Oh, but it's good. You've created a lot with obviously a lot of collaboration, but it's exciting. How has Sobeys evolved over the years? Right. I've been active in the industry for 10 years. Been around the industry for my whole life, but I've seen it evolve. What have you seen evolve? Right. Maybe just from Sobeys, but just like in the last 5 years with Voila, and the Okada system.
Yeah.
Like I've been
It's
reading up on
amazing.
that. The thing's insane.
It's like a little genius robot that
It can
that
pick an
picks
order in
everything up
5
and
seconds. It can pick an order.
It's incredible. Like I watch the videos and I'm just amazed at
I've watched the videos.
how
It's
that
insane.
works. Like I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of change in the last 5 years. It's definitely, our stores have gotten better.
Mhm.
I think a lot of our systems and processes have grown and developed. The addition of Voila, I mean, what better timing was that to launch out? We hadn't intended for a pandemic to hit, but just to launch out in that time was brilliant.
Mhm.
Unplanned, worked out to our benefit for sure. It's a great system. I order from Voila.
So do I.
I don't do it consistently, but I will say every time I have ordered, the produce is top notch. And it amazes me that I'm ordering this 24 hours in advance, and then you're sending me a list of this isn't available, or we're adding this. Like, I love the fact that it tells me what I can't get.
Mm-hmm.
And then I can go in and reorder it if I need to, or they're like, do you want to hold your order till we can put brilliant. I don't have to go to the grocery store. I mean, I love going to the grocery stores, but
you're already there all the time.
I'm already there all the time. Like
and I forget to buy the groceries.
Yeah, that was always my rule when I worked in the stores. My husband was like, oh, we need milk. I'm like, okay, perfect. I get home from work. He's like, did you get milk? I'm like, no, I was in the store all day. You can go to the grocery store.
It's so funny when I go to the grocery store with my wife. I'm taking pictures of displays.
Oh,
I'm
yes.
making sure, I'm restocking shelves, refacing them. And she's like, did you get the kombucha?
No.
No, I got a picture of it.
No, I remembered to get the picture.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am the same. It's funny how when you walk into a store, when you're in that retail aspect, you're looking at totally different things that like what you need to buy is not even in the forefront.
Yeah, it's funny. I was gonna say I used to order from Grocery Gateway.
Yep.
And then now I'm Voila.
Now
But
you're
I
Voila.
live up in Innisfil and there's Voila trucks ripping around everywhere. So it's
Oh,
pretty
yeah.
popular.
I love
there.
seeing those trucks.
Yeah.
My goal is to have the truck delivered that has the avocado on the side. I have yet to have that happen. I'm like, I see it whip around my neighborhood. And I'm like, how come it's not my delivery?
What's the significance of the avocado?
I just like that one. For some reason, I think
I'll
it's
keep an eye on it.
the
I'll take a
cutest
picture
side of
and
the
I'll send it
truck.
to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll send it to you. So what else are you doing in the industry? I know you work with a lot of female founders. You're really pushing the envelope with supporting female founders. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, female founders are always going to be near and dear to my heart. I am very focused on that diversity and equity. We have a lot of amazing female entrepreneurs out there that just need that break and to understand how to break that industry. Grocery's always been male dominated, for sure. And I think we've seen a lot of evolution in the last 10 years, probably more so the last 5. I'm part of Women Food and Management group. We do collaborations. I think they get together 4 times a year. So I'm part of that network. We're doing a mentor-mentee program there that I am part of, which has been amazing. And I just love, I can go out to these events and it's not all women. There's a lot of men alliance out there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's great to see who they are and how they're representing and showing up for women in the business, to support that. So I think, I do a lot of work with women entrepreneurs. A couple years ago for International Women's Day, we launched a local food box. It was all women entrepreneurs. We got together at Rockology. They gave us their whole area and we built the boxes. Every single one of us were in shifts, building these boxes, putting them together. So they really were built with love by women, and shipped out to the stores by a female distributor. And then we worked with Andrea Watson on actually creating the actual box and building that out. So it truly was a female collaboration, which was incredible to see the brands come together and just the conversations and the laughing, and it was a lot of fun. I find women are very authentic and transparent, and there's a lot of other struggles. You're trying to raise a family, you've got kids, you need to shuffle them here and there. So how does that fit that entrepreneur life? And you look at these women and what they're doing and how they're making that successful. It's incredible that they can fit it all into their day.
It really is. But before I forget, Shrini, can you write down Rockology and who was the other?
Andrea Watson. So she is Nature's Nose.
Nature's Nose.
She has packaging and very sustainable business. So it's very cool.
I want to make sure we're 5 for 5 with guests on the show.
I will get you those connections if you need them too. So
no, but it is incredible. Green Fresh, my marketing company, is predominantly women. They're incredible. I don't know where I would be without them. And then I just had a daughter.
Yes, congratulations.
She's 1 year on Sunday.
Yes.
Next Sunday, and the respect after having a child, like seeing my wife and how hard it is. And then putting that into perspective into, women in the professional field that have multiple kids or whatever, it's outstanding. I don't think I could do it. I don't think a man could do it.
And I think we put a lot of guilt on ourselves of, missing certain events or, we're not there for that. But I think, you're there for the important milestones and you're always showing up for your children. If you can't make it to an event, it's not the end of the world. But you can show up in different ways for them. And just, I think being honest with your kids nowadays is really important of, mom can't be there for this, but here's my advice, or here's what I'm going to do, or can we get someone to videotape it for me so I can be there? I think we need to take that layer of guilt off of ourselves for the things we can't be there, because we do have a significant partner that can be there. And if you're a single mom, you've got relatives or friends that can show up for you in your place. So I think it's really about us expanding our network out, and asking for help.
Yeah, I totally agree. And then diversity in the boardroom and the office place, right?
Yes.
Having that mindset and that collaboration with everybody is so important.
Yes.
Right? I think, and we all bring different perspectives on a topic.
Yes.
Right? And I'm not going to say think of the same thing that you're going to think or whatever, right? And it's so important. And it's it's frustrating that it was so male dominated, right? But I think it's definitely progressing in a very positive way.
And it's funny, until you sit down and talk about it, you don't really realize how it's changed and evolved, because it's just sort of happened. It is saddening that we still have to have these conversations and that it still needs to be always in the forefront, because I think it should just be a natural
100%.
flow. Like it shouldn't even matter if you're female, male, or whatever you're choosing. It shouldn't matter. It should just 100%. Be 100% accepted, and
Yeah, so it's made me think about it more having a daughter. That's the only reason
why
I
absolutely.
keep pushing the topic.
Absolutely.
I lost my train of thought where I wanted to take the rest of the conversation. I guess, what advice would you give aspiring entrepreneurs?
That's so hard. It depends really on
Make sure you understand GS1.
where they are. Yeah, GS1 is going to be your biggest challenge. That would be my advice. I think navigating the retail environment is really key. The advice I would give is understand where your product falls in what category. Does it fit on a shelf? I mean, any retailer's pretty much got the same sort of shelf layouts, heights. You don't want to have that big, huge bottle that is going to get buried on bottom, buried on top shelf. You want to kind of make sure you're in line with what the competitors are doing. Your retail is there, and your costing is there. I think it really would be about understanding that grocery side of it. It's easy to say, I've been at the market for 5 years and I sell my product for $18. That's great. When people are at markets, they have a different mindset as to walking into a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in a grocery store, you have a grocery list, you have a budget. When you're at a market, it's like, oh, that's really cool, I want to try it, or oh, that smells really good, I'm going to buy that. You don't really look at price as much as you do when you're in a grocery store. So that's one of the key things to remember is your retail does not always translate to that retail big box environment.
Yeah, it's and it's different per province. I think it's different.
Absolutely.
In format, right? Versus like some of the Sobeys stores, smaller urban fresh stores in Toronto are going to be, positioned very different than more rural locations or IGAs or whatever,
Sure.
right? So I think understanding that is super important. Were there any mentors in your life early on that helped guide you?
I had lots. I had a lot. Somebody asked me that question, who were your mentors? And I'm like, I could name off probably 20 that guided me through. And I didn't really realize they were mentoring me at the time. It was just more those, conversations of what do you want to do? And have you thought about this? And I've thought about that a lot over the last 2 years, and especially now that I am mentoring somebody. I didn't even know I was being mentored.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was asking the right question, or I didn't know I was utilizing them in that way. And I'm sure it goes both ways, because I've spoken to a few of them. I'm like, you really mentored me. And they're like, yeah, but that was just part of my job. It was just, I was your manager and this is what I was doing for you. And I'm like, yeah, but a lot of people don't get that, or maybe they don't action it the same way. I was always if you told me to do something, I would think about it, and I'm very stubborn. I would do it in my own way, and I would have to do it on my own terms, but I would eventually get there. But yeah, I can't even pinpoint one person that really stood out, because I think everybody offered me something at a specific time that was needed to sort of move forward.
How does it make you feel that you're a mentor to so many people?
And see, I don't think about that either.
Because you are, and I've had conversations with founders that have talked to them.
Yeah, and I think it's just a natural conversation that I'm having with them on the, that side. And I think that's where this role, it's that nurturing part of it, which really, I guess, does become that mentoring of, this is what I think you should do, or have you thought of this, or have you looked down this avenue, or here's a great contact for you.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really looked at that as mentoring either. And it's probably why, as I'm being a mentor,
doing your job.
I'm struggling. I'm like, how do I do this? Like,
Yeah.
What am I supposed to say? And I'm like, okay, just think of it as one of your suppliers that you're working with. What would you tell them, or how would you
Mm-hmm.
coach them? So, yeah, it's funny how you just think it just becomes part of your everyday conversation.
Well, you're being authentic,
Being authentic,
right? And you're
transparent, and
putting in the work,
yes,
right?
Yes.
You want to see them succeed. You actually care,
absolutely,
right? And then you see it on the other end.
yes.
Do you think, this is more of a general question I just thought of, do you think entrepreneurs or the industry would benefit from, kind of generic educational resources, right? Like there's nothing, and I thought about this when I started the industry, like I had a mentor as well that kind of guided me through a grocery store and trained me on a lot of the key, I guess, CPG areas. But I wish there was some sort of educational resource that like I could go pay $500 and like, okay, this is how to conduct research.
Here's what
a
to
competitive
do.
analysis. This is what merchandising is. This is what.
Yeah, that would be absolutely incredible.
Like that.
And you know what? That would be a key thing that, maybe the Ontario government could potentially tap into. They have great newsletters every month. And I'm forever going through their newsletter, taking out key things for the entrepreneurs that I think would help guide them. And I try to send out a newsletter every other month if I have key information.
To the suppliers they work with?
To the suppliers, and then even to the suppliers I'm not working with. Any of them that have reached out or we've had conversations, I send that to them too, because they're really the ones that are going to benefit. It doesn't matter that maybe our relationship didn't work out or it wasn't the right product for our stores. It is the right product for somewhere.
Yeah.
So if I can help them grow, I will continue to do so with that.
Can I subscribe to that newsletter? That seems like
I can add you
pretty
to
high profile list.
Yeah, it's just, little things. We have a partnership with Venture Park. So if they're out looking for suppliers or they have anything going on, I make sure I share that out. And then we have the Venture Park Kitchen in Toronto, which is fabulous for startups to get involved in, and just things like that can really sort of help shape their business or even give them more networking. Because I think networking is probably the biggest thing out there. A lot of what I have learned in the 5 years has been, not only from my teammates, but also from the entrepreneurs, talking to them, picking their brain, because they might think I'm their mentor, but I'm using them as a mentor too, to understand more about what they're doing, how they do things. Yeah.
That's why I do this podcast.
It goes, exactly. You get to, you make it look like it's such
I'm
a fun
absorbing
thing.
quite a bit over here.
Let's have a podcast, and here's some questions I'm going to ask you.
Yeah. What's next for you? What's next for the local program? What can we expect from Sheri Evans in the coming months and the next year maybe?
We've got lots of exciting things coming out. We just hosted our local supplier awards for 2022, so we're always a year behind on that. I invited the suppliers out for they thought a growth meeting to talk about how do we make local better, how do we do all this. So they came with all their notes and their package, and then I bombarded them with a surprise award ceremony.
Oh, so they didn't even know about that?
They didn't know. Didn't know. So
I saw Nana Pops. I saw Sarah from More Granola. Margaret was there, I believe.
Yeah, Margaret.
Yeah, they were all
greenhouse
juice. I guess that's why you could see the level of excitement in the pictures, because it was a surprise to them. That's very
Some
cool.
of them, I just shared out the pictures. We had Blue Moon come out and do photography for us. So I shared out the pictures, and some of them were like, yep, that was pure shock on my face. I'm like, yep, it was. And it was awesome, because it's those moments, like you get the chills, because when you're telling them why they're actually there, they're like, are you serious? And they know, like, there's a small group, so they're like, obviously I've won an award, like this is really exciting.
Yeah.
So that's, you had asked me, what is the reward or the highlight of my role? It's moments like that where I get to really celebrate and highlight them. Or even like you get a phone call of, hey, I got into that first store. That is like, for an entrepreneur, the most exciting thing. And some people might think that's the littlest thing. It's not, because for them to break through and get into that environment is huge for them. And it's just the start of all of the great things to come for their future.
Yeah, because it's a lot of work sourcing ingredients, getting the packaging right, understanding the economics, and then finally see it on shelf.
Like,
or see someone buy it.
I can't even imagine like going through all that, recipe and developing and creating, and then the packaging and building it all, and then being able to walk into a store and say, I did
That's
that.
mine.
That is mine. Like, that's got to be the best feeling in the world.
So before we end off, if I'm a brand, how do I get in touch with you? Is it simply, do I just have to find your email you, send you a presentation,
All that
DM
information
you
is
on
in.
LinkedIn? How does,
Yeah,
because you do a lot of sourcing yourself. You're out there,
I do.
you're finding the next brand.
Yes.
But how does a brand maybe want to get in touch with you?
So on our Sobeys website, we do have a spot for local entrepreneurs to contact us. So we do use that, or reaching out to me directly. Usually it's LinkedIn, people find me. Sometimes it's Facebook, sometimes it's Instagram. Word of mouth.
Intros and networking and that type of thing.
Yeah.
So we won't link everything. We'll link the Sobeys website on the show notes so people can
Perfect.
get in touch with you there.
Yeah.
Is there any last words? Anything else you wanna say?
No, I think just the entrepreneurs that are watching this, keep pushing. There's a demand out there for your product. You will find the right place for it. Keep going. Don't give up.
Yeah.
That's the best.
I really appreciate it. You're
No problem.
a phenomenal human being and you're doing so much for the industry, so thank you. And I really appreciate you
This
being on.
podcast is incredible that you're doing this.
Yeah,
so
thank you.
I'm
Appreciate
glad
it.
to be here and
Take
share it out.
Yeah.
Thanks.